Hello and welcome to Fatherhood and Family Law Podcast. I'm your host, Kendrick Holly. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. If you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. Tell a friend and tell a friend. I'm back. This space is just not for fathers or, it's for parents, it's for family members. Hell, it's for moms too. Someone just trying to get a better understanding of the court system and family law. This space is for you. This podcast is real life, real stories, real situations, and at the end of the day, we're all about healing. So bear with me. It's first episode. I kind of wrote little cliff notes on my screen, so if you catch me drifting off, I'm just trying to stay aligned and stay on course and keep my emotions intact and everything like that. So just so we can just start it off, when things go left, a lot of fathers go unheard, you know what I'm saying? They go overlooked, and most get pushed to the sideline, So let's just process that for a moment. When things go left, when those parents are not seeing eye to eye anymore, usually, the father get pushed to the sideline. So being a dad that look at yourself as number one, right? The Michael Jordan, the Wayne Gretzky's, the anybody, right? Just anybody in general who's top of the line when it comes to their profession. You take fatherhood the exact same way. So when things do go left and it's no more of everything in that favor anymore, it's hard to process at times, and in many cases, throughout all the issues that's going on, the kids get overlooked when it comes down to it, and this is just not a legal issue. It's a generational issue. It's a community issue. It's an emotional issue. It's every type of thing on the list under that umbrella at the end of the day. And here at this podcast, we're going to highlight those issues and, try to bring those solutions and understanding. And most importantly, again, that overall healing. So again, we matter. Fathers matter, just not financially, just not occasionally. We have to be consistent when it comes to our children, but we have to be there emotionally, spiritually. And at the end of the day, when you're in court, you have to be prepared legally at the end of the day when it comes to these things. So when you're moving, give me 1 second. I'm just trying to stay on course here and everything. So again, you just have to have everything aligned. And again, legally, when it comes to the court, have everything you want to. So just the roles of father and family law, when it comes to family court, is usually about child support, custody, or, just a disagreement between the parents. But what tend to get lost is just the father's overall care for the children or your child, the overall caregiver, that foundational rock that's there for your child from day one. That tends to get lost, and just that presence overall, it tends to fade. And, the system tends, excuse me, to build this image and portray us as fathers that's just not right. It's like, man, this really happens, Doc. This really goes on, and it has been going on for years, centuries, decades. You name it. Since the book was printed, these issues has been occurring. But when you become a father and you're thrown into the fire, you find yourself becoming that statistic. Like, man, we're here now. So again, as fathers, our presence tend to fade, but what's the reality are we are those emotional anchors, whether society acknowledges or not. I know I stand by that. We are those emotional anchors as well. When we're actively involved in our children's lives, our child's life, those outcomes are very powerful. And I just like to back up and say I'm a father. I have 2 kids. I have a daughter that's 4 and a son that's 3, and I have primary custody of the kids. At one point, it was 100% full custody. Now I think it's like 90 or 92. But anyway, I have a majority custody of the kids. So I'm a dad that's doing it on my own. So I understand everything. At one point, I didn't have the kids. Now I have the kids. So we're going to get into that later on in more episodes when we join into it. But at the end of the day, when it comes to that father being there and having that presence, the child tends to have that stability, that emotional intelligence as well, that encouragement, that push when it comes to anything performing athletically. When it comes to the books, it's just, hey, Dad, check this out. Dad, 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 Dad. And I'm going through that now with my children being in, what's that, pre-K? Yeah, pre-K with my children. They're going to TK next, but, when I drop them off at school, they're excited. When I pick them up, it's, hey, Dad, look what we did today. So it's just them and that showing me everything they got going on. So it's a very fulfilling moment in my life, as well as a core memory for me to store. So again, when them fathers that we have, when we tend to have that strong presence, again, that know how to regulate their emotions, that stronger confidence, as well as that overall performance, right? So that's very key. So be there for your children and just keep fighting overall. And one more second. Again, so when we talk about family law, we're not just talking about the legal rights, or we're not just talking about the access to your child. We're talking about your overall presence. We're talking about how you shape the overall life of your child. That's key. Not just having one parent decide one thing, or even the courts. You want to have a great understanding when it comes to things, when it comes to the shape of, the life, everything that they do. You want to have your hand into the impact of that. But it tends to be a very emotional impact on us as men, as fathers, as parents, family members, when it comes to family court. So let's get real for a moment. Family court can be very emotional. It's a very draining experience. They tell you get there at this time. We're going to get there as soon as the court doors open. Your hearing might not be to 8:30, 9:30. So, you're just sitting there, that stress, that confusion, that overall frustration of just being in court, that anxiety, that stress that builds up on the drive over there. I've been there, palms sweating, you sitting in the parking lot, at the parking meter before you go into the courthouse. However, it just hits you like, man, I'm here, we're here. Like, how did we get here? And, again, this is just the first episode. We'll dive more into everything else, into other episodes. But again, it's just wow. The sleepless nights, the feeling of not being in control of the situation, of your children, the time spent. It takes a huge toll on you, on your health, your mental, your relationships with your friends, your families. It just takes a huge toll. So for many fathers that's fighting the system, keep fighting. We're also trying to hold ourselves together during this fight. So again, we're praying as a community here at Fatherhood and Family Law, and together we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. That's the best word of advice I can give you. We're going to get through this together. So again, we're going to just grow together. We're going to be here. I'm very excited on everything. So, and if you're listening right now, and if you felt what I was saying, if you've been listening and you're in tune, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not alone. Most importantly, you're not powerless throughout your journey. You're going to regain that power. You have that power. These are your children we're talking about. So we're fighting, and we're not giving up. So again, fighting everything, and you're processing everything. The main thing to keep here at the end of the day is just a child-centered approach. Let the emotions go of the ex. They may be hard, and I'm speaking from experience. It's hard to forgive and forget a person when they've tried to destroy you. We don't have to get into these different type of words and terms we want to use. I use destroy. Whatever you want to use. However you feel it, because your emotions are validated here. We understand it. I understand it. I was a wreck when this all started. When this started, and I'm in family court. Give me a second. I was a wreck. It was about the ego. When at the end of the day, it's not about the ego. My pride. I was more so trying to attack the person who put me in this situation, opposed to protect the children who was placed in this situation. So once I had to get that together and understand, hey man, I got to protect the children at this point and show, hey, me as an adult, me as a parent, I'm more suitable, I'm more stable, and anything else along that line when it comes to being a parent and a father, I'm ready. So, just keep your ego out of it. Keep it about the children, and it's not about proving a point. You're not competing with anyone. You just have to always keep a child-centered approach. That's the best advice as well. I took that from a lawyer. Again, I just wrote down little cliff notes in this. I got child-centered approach. And that's the first thing a lawyer had told me, man. Just keep a child-centered approach and know it's going to be hard. Emotions are very high. Conflict does exist. The history that you have with that person, it exists. No matter how they try to lay it out on the timeline of how you met, are you just a boyfriend, a girlfriend, whatever your relationship and however you label yourself. You get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it's just hard, and we know issues are there, but the children should not be aware of those issues as much. I don't hide anything from my kids, so I'm holding myself to that. When I know my kids get to that age and they have their questions, I got to be prepared, but I also got to know, I got to keep my emotions and my ego intact. I'm not here to attack their mother. You know what I'm saying? As a man, we're not here to attack a woman. I'm just here to, better yet, bring clarity to the situation. That's all. Just bring a little clarity, and that's about it. Because everything changes at the end of the day. We have to shift our mindset, our focus, and just let it be known it's about the kids, and that's what's more important. Showing up consistently. That's all I can say. The time and just being there. Communication as well in a respectful manner. Again, I was a wreck when this started, so my communication with my ex. What's this called? A talking parent app. Raise your hand. 99% of us is on that app, or we know of that app. You get what I'm saying? So, man, what I was writing was just crazy, and I kept on protesting. I'm using my First Amendment, freedom of speech. I'm not making any threats. I'm not disrespecting anyone. I'm just it is what it is, and I had to clean that up too as well. So again, make sure your communication is well, decision making as well, and just making sure you're more stable at the end of the day on your child-centered approach when it comes to things. And that's very key, man, because the children is watching. They're watching how you handle adversity, how you handle your emotions, hell, how you love on them. They're watching everything. So just be that stand-up guy, that stand-up parent who's comfortable within your emotions. These are children. Keep their childhood innocence. They don't know any better. I pride myself on just trying to restore that feeling for my children through the midst of what we've been through since they've been born, what they've been through, what I've been through, what the family has been through. I'm just trying to protect their innocence as long as I can as a man, as a father. So, again, because, the children is watching. So, once we understand all of that, we have to shift that narrative. And deadbeat dad, he did this, he did that. Got to shift that narrative. I didn't give up on my children, and that's what we're here to do at Fatherhood and Family Law. We're here to speak innocence, speak truth, bring awareness to those powerful fathers, those powerful men that's doing the good work, because there's a stereotype of the fathers that's less involved and, that's less capable or less committed. And, we have to pray for them. We're not here to put down anybody, but for the men that's there putting the work in, our story is not, what the courts may list, what the ex may list, it's not our story. It's not our truths, A lot of us, when we go through the paperwork in court, we just shut down. It's a lot. It's a lot to process. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to understand, So, again, keep everything together, and that's very key. That's very key. I want to get into something else, but that's another episode, Because when you keep everything key, you letting it be known, you're fighting to be heard. You're fighting to be in your child's life, and and this is the platform for that. At the end of the day, this is for you, And my goals overall, and I'm not going to keep you too long here on the first episode, but my goals overall for this podcast is healing. Honest conversations. We're going to acknowledge the pain. Healing is about growth overall. It's about understanding your experience and moving forward with purpose. Again, I want to just say that because I wrote an asterisk beside that on my Cliff Notes. It's about understanding your experience and moving forward with the right purpose. Understand what you're going through. Understand what you've been through. And have the right purpose moving forward, knowing it's about my children. We only have a few more summers on this earth. However, what they say, you got 70 summers. However, whatever it is, whatever your age is, take it from there. I want to spend the rest of my summers right with my children. I want to have everything together. So at the end of the day, we're just here to, heal, grow, simplify everything that's complicated, that's overwhelming. Simplify it. It doesn't happen like that. Trust me. It doesn't. I'm on year 4, year 5, year 4, year 4.5. Family court, understanding family law. So I'm just here to give the knowledge to gain to those fathers that may have shut down. Those fathers that do not understand certain things. We're here at Fatherhood and Family Law to break down the paperwork, have those discussions with other fathers, and just, give flowers. Just give our flowers to those men that's putting the work in, that's trying to be there for their children. That's as far as the educational side of a key highlight of the podcast. We're going to be educating each other throughout our experience in the family court, family law, and everything under the umbrella, child support, custody, visitation, mediation, you name it, we're going to discuss it here. So we're all here. And last but not least, overall empowerment, getting the power back, not through anger, through conflict, or not through conflict, but more so through education, the mindset, and the overall action to file these motions, to get more time, to get more custody, visitations, you name it. But we're just trying to be there for our children. Because once you understand the system, once you manage your emotions, you tend to focus solely on the children, and you just move differently. That's it. You heal from the past of that relationship, knowing that that would never be again. That relationship would never happen again. That's for most is a tough pill to swallow. It is, but that's over with. And my closing message, if there's anything I want you to take from this first episode, your role as a father matters. Your role as a parent matters. Family member matters. Take any cliff note I might have said, just, jot it down, take it. But just know at the end of the day, you matter to these children, because no measure of paperwork can measure. No amount of paperwork can measure your impact that you have on the children. No amount of paperwork, so continue to make an impact, a positive impact at that, and just show up. How you respond matter, and that's what defines your legacy. So thank you for tuning in to Fatherhood and Family Law Podcast. I'm your host, Kendrick Holly. I'll see you on the next episode. We're going to talk about the realities of navigating family court next episode. More stories about fatherhood and my experiences thus far. And again, just stay present, stay focused, keep your emotions intact, and always keep the child and your children at the center of everything. And I'll see you next episode. Peace.